Hi, welcome back. In this session, we are going to learn data binding in Angular. So, what is data binding? Data binding is communication between the TypeScript file and our component UI. So, if we have written some logic in the component.ts file, we want to communicate the data to the template, which is the .html file. Or if you have something like the button or any click buttons, right, any submit buttons, you want to send some data from the template to TypeScript file. So, data binding is the communication between the TypeScript and the template. So, there are two ways of data binding. One way data binding, which is unidirectional, which means we can send the data from TypeScript to HTML or from HTML to TypeScript. And two-way data binding is bidirectional. So, it communicates between both. So, as soon as you update the template, it sends back to TypeScript and it immediately reflects in the HTML. So, we will see this two-way data binding an example shortly. And what are the types of data binding? So, we can say string interpolation, and we have property binding, we have event binding, we have two-way data binding. So, string interpolation, it is used when hard-coded values inside a component, which is the TypeScript file, should be displayed directly in the view. So, when you have some values or any titles, labels, any values in the component which is in the TypeScript, you want to send that value to the HTML template. And for the string interpolation, we are going to use double curly braces. So, let us see an example. So, I have my component header component.html, and here I have a TypeScript file. So, what I am going to say, within the export class, I am going to create a variable called title, right. So, I am going to say welcome to Angular. So, welcome to Angular is a string which is stored in a title variable. Now, this title value I want to get in the HTML. So, for that let me go here. So, I am saying active link. Instead of active link, I am going to use the string interpolation, which is title. So, now let us run the program. Alright. So, now we can see welcome to Angular is available. You may have a question, why don't I directly write the link here, welcome to Angular? Well, you are going to get some dynamic values from the TypeScript. So, you are going to make a REST API call, and these values you might be getting from server, right? That the stock prices, some different headings, the product titles, everything might come from the backend database, and those values you might need to display in the template. And if you use in this way in the string interpolation, there is also another concept called pipes, where we can say we can use the pipe symbol and change it to uppercase, right. So, you have the title value and you can change that to uppercase. You can see now the value is sitting in the component.ts and we are updating that to uppercase, right. So, there are some advantages when we are using the string interpolation. So, next is property binding. So, property binding, we are binding the data to a property. So, for example, we have properties like image source or the different properties, right, like height property, width property for an image. We can bind those property values in the TypeScript and we can send it to the HTML. So we need property binding in case we need to bind properties such as booleans, because string interpolation only works with the string. So let's see an example with the property binding. See an example using property binding. So here I have my logo component.html. So inside the logo component there is a property called src. So this property is coming actually, it is hard coded right now, but we have a TypeScript file. So inside the TypeScript file I'm going to create a variable called image source equals to. So let me get an absolute URL of an image. So I have an absolute URL. I'll paste this link in the description if you require, and I'll copy this and let me update the image source. So this is my property. So what I am going to do in the component.html, I'll update the property here by using brackets. So here I am going to say src equals to, what is the property name? The property name is image src. So now let's go back to our application and see if it is updated. Right click, inspect, and see if there is an absolute URL. Yes, the source is coming. So with the property binding, in the TypeScript file you create a property along with the URL, and later you are going to use some booleans also, like image available equals to true or false, right? So we are going to use some kind of booleans like this. We will see that. Now here in that we have the property, and that property we are going to mention in the square brackets and give the property name, which is image src with the boolean value. Okay, so here let's create a new component. Ng generate component. I'll say components. If I want to create a folder called components, component/products. Okay, I'm going to create a component called products inside a components folder. So you will see a new folder is created called components. So inside that I have this one. So what I'm going to do, inside this I'm going to create a form. Okay, so here for let me create a type equals to text, name equals to first name, then I'm going to create a button. Maybe I'll just say submit. Okay, so now let's include this product component inside the app component. So app component, so here I'm going to insert apps component. So let's see. Okay, here you can see a component here. So now you can see the button is enabled. So I'm going to use a property binding. I'm going to use a property binding with Boolean. So I'm going to say disable. We need the value of that, whether it's enabled or not. Okay, so the property binding I need to give a name. So in that, go to the TypeScript file. So create a Boolean button disable equals to false. Button disabled equals to false. So this Boolean variable we are going to declare it here. Is a typo here, disable, yes. Now let's declare that variable here, button disable. So now let's see what happens. So you can see button disabled is false, we are seeing it. So let's go back and change it to true. Now you can see the button will be disabled, we cannot click that. So if we do the same thing with the string interpolation, it will not work for the Boolean values. So for the property binding, whenever there is a Boolean requirement, we are going to use within the brackets and declare that property name. Now let's learn event binding. Event binding handles user interaction with an application in the form of mouse action. So let's say on the DOM, you have in a page, you have a form, you click on a button, right? So when you click on button, there is an event happen, and based on that event, you want to perform some action. Example, when you click on add to cart, our product should be added, right? So there are different events like click event, double click or mouse over, mouse out, mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse down and mouse up. And I also given the reference, if you want to find more mouse events, you can check the document. So let's see an example of event binding. So for that, in the products component, I'm going to create a button. In the products component, I'm going to create a button. So here we are going to say click event, and I'll say check products, or you can say show products, some button name I have given. So event binding is declared in open close parenthesis. Okay. Now I'm going to create a function or a method, show products. Okay. So this show products, we need to in the define inside the product.ts. So what I'm going to do here, show products event. Let's see what kind of event we are receiving. Okay, so here we need to declare $event. So when someone clicks on this show products, let me add a bootstrap class as well here. Okay, so when someone clicks this particular button, this function will be triggered, show products, and let's see an alert here inside show products. All right, so let's see if the application is already running. Let's go back. So here we have this app component, and let me click on this show products. You can see show products function is invoked. Let's see what is happening inside this show products. Okay, let me add a debugger. And now you click on show products. Okay, so you can see now what kind of event it is. The reason we have created it's any, because we want to know what kind of event it is. Okay, so it says button is a click event, right? So type of event is click event, and we are getting that button location and everything. Okay, this is the source element. So in this way we can handle event handling in the Angular. Next we will understand two-way data binding. So two-way data binding is a combination of property and event binding. To implement two-way data binding, Angular provides with a directive that is called ng model. So let's see an example on this. So say for example, I have let's go to the products detail components. What I'm going to do, in the HTML or in the template view, we will display a product, and that product will contain a price. Well, let's say the product price is $1,000, and we will give you the input field to enter the quantity, right? So I'm going to enter the quantity. Now in the TypeScript, we need to read that quantity, and then we again send it back to HTML. We will send back to HTML. So to the TypeScript, from the HTML we are getting the quantity to the TypeScript, and from TypeScript we will send back again to HTML. In the HTML we will do some calculation and then display it. Okay, so we will see the two-way data binding right now. So this is my form. So inside the form, let me create a label, and I'm going to say iPhone as my price. Let's say iPhone 14, and then price is $1,000 something, right? So here I'm going to create an input field, type equals to number, and then I am going to give the value, enter the quantity, right? So here later I'm going to say, in the heading I'll say checkout as some heading. Here I'm going to use the string interpolation to say the total price, okay, total something, total value. So right now the total I want to get it from the TypeScript. So here I'll go inside the TypeScript. I'm going to declare a variable item total is 0. Item total is 0. So this item total we will insert in the string interpolation. Now let's see what happens. So right now, because you haven't added any product, we are not getting anything, right? So if I say 1, that 1 should be calculated and the price should be displayed. So what I'm going to do, let's use the property binding first. Okay, so here I'm going to say ng model equals to item total. So you will see an error here because this ng model is not recognized by our app module. If you hover on it, it will say can't bind to ng model since it's a noun property. This is not a noun property. So whenever you see this kind of error, that means it's you need to declare this ng model, the forms module, inside the app module. So go to app module, you need to import a module called forms module. So forms module is imported from Angular forms. We also need to declare in the import statements. Now the error is gone. Now let's go back and see. So you can see right now the total is saying 0. If I enter 1, it's still not coming, right? Why it's not coming? If we are saying that if I am entering the number and it's not updating, right? So we should notice one thing. Whenever we are using ng model directly in the form, it will not work. We need to use some options that we will discuss later. So for now, for time being, let me take out this form and save it. Okay, So now you can see if I am entering 4, it is updating. So when you enter in the template, the value is received to the TypeScript, which is this one total, and from the total variable you are again using in the string interpolation. Now you can do this way. So total into the price of this one, right? So if I want to use product price, so I can do one thing, product price equals 1000, and this product price I can use in the string interpolation, and here I will multiply with that, right? So total into product price. So let's go back here. So we still have the product price. I want 5 as my quantity, so you can see the total is updated. And let me place this form in the center. Alright, so now you can see if I update it to 6, the quantity is updating, right? The total is updating. So this is how we can use two-way data binding.